Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London.
Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is not guilty as charged in the first article of impeachment.
The Senate voted to acquit him 52-48 on charges of abuse of power and 53-47 on obstruction of Congress. Democrats charged Mr. Trump in December with pressuring Ukraine to smear a potential White House rival. He will become the first impeached president to seek re-election.
And worst of all, these Democrats spent the last 3 years on one investigation after another. These do-nothing Democrats, we know, passed those articles of impeachment. They rushed this partisan impeachment through the House in a shameful attempt, now failed attempt, to overturn the will of the American people.
A high-speed train derailed in the northern Italian province of Lodi in the early hours of Thursday, killing at least 2 people and interrupting traffic on the line between Milan and Bologna. Emergency services were at the scene and a railway official said 2 people had been killed and 2 others had suffered relatively serious injuries. Media reports say 2 members of the train crew had been killed and 27 people injured. Witnesses and medical officials say Israeli troops have shot dead a Palestinian who was taking part in a violent protest against US President Donald Trump's peace plan. The 17-year-old was the first Palestinian killed in unrest since the peace plan was unveiled last week. He was killed as he took part in a protest in Hebron, a Palestinian city with Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank. Meanwhile, Israeli police say a gunman shot at a border policeman, lightly wounding him, before police returned fire and killed him. That shooting took place not far from a popular nightlife venue where a few hours earlier a car had rammed into Israeli soldiers who were sightseeing after coming to the city to be sworn in upon completing basic training. Malawi's President Peter Mutharika has accused the country's constitutional court of attacking democracy after judges said there had been vote tampering and correction fluid used to alter the results. Mr. Mutharika says he plans to go to the Supreme Court to appeal against the ruling, which he says was full of errors that needed to be corrected and a serious subversion of justice. He stressed it only related to procedural issues and not vote rigging. On Monday, the court annulled the result of May's election, in which Mr. Mutharika narrowly won re-election. Ivory Coast's Navy has seized a record amount of cocaine in small Louis Vuitton bags. The almost 900 pounds of cocaine contained in hundreds of plastic wrap packages bearing logos from Louis Vuitton and Mercedes-Benz was a record drug haul for Ivory Coast's Navy. A special Navy unit spotted the Spanish flag ship carrying the drugs off the country's coastline and say it was headed to the commercial capital Abidjan. It's not yet clear where the cocaine originated from or who is responsible for trafficking it. 5 people were arrested as a result of the raid. A host of actors have paid tribute to Kirk Douglas, who's died at the age of 103. The movie star who fought gladiators, cowboys and boxers on the big screen died on Wednesday. Speaking at the launch event for the Monte Carlo Television Festival's 60th anniversary celebrations, fellow actors were full of praise for Kirk Douglas as they remembered working with him as well as enjoying watching him on the big screen.
Kirk taught me so much about movie business, making of movies. Consummate professional, wonderful guy, and he knew every part of making films. He understood it all. And he taught me humility when it comes to being an actor.
And finally, NASA astronaut Christina Koch has completed the longest ever single spaceflight by a woman. The Russian Soyuz spacecraft carrying Koch parachuted down to the grasslands of Kazakhstan at around 9:12 GMT. She spent 328 days on the International Space Station, surpassing the previous record held by fellow American Peggy Wilson on the 28th of December last year. And that's your international news around the world in 5.